So day 5, January, prayer and fasting, and we're in Leviticus 5 summary. And this is all about the trespass offering / the guilt offering. Now the trespass was still a sin offering, and like you've trespassed against God's laws, you've gone against God's laws, you made a step away from what God has forbidden and stuff. Things like that. So it was also about making sure that everyone knows some things are not like ignorance can't be allowed. It still also needs to be dealt with whether you knew or not. And it's about some things also need compensation, because you can trespass against God or you could trespass against people. And like if you were to trespass against the holy things, like say you desecrated a sanctuary or gone against the tithes or offerings or things you vowed, then they'll still be needing compensation. And you can trespass against, even like it talks about telling lies, or not telling lies, not just telling not lying was good enough, but you also have to tell the truth. So the same way, just not denying that Jesus is alive and Jesus lives, you also are meant to be telling the truth about Jesus. So trespass was also about if you're unclean, touching unclean animals or touching unclean parts of humans, you're also trespassing, you're going against the law. The other things were if you're to tell a vow, like some people be vowing to not do this, not do that, but then if you've not done what you vowed, that's also a trespass. That also has needed sin offering. Now the trespass offering was technically 2 offerings in one. You still had the sin offering and you had the burnt offering. So it was showing about atonement needed to be dealt with before you could be made clean. So cleanliness is important in what this is part showing as well. Also had the part about, it talked about when you're made known, when you become aware of being guilty. But that wasn't about saying that you're only guilty when you become knowing that you're guilty. You were guilty the minute you sinned, but there's something about when you realize you're guilty, then you also need to know you need to make atonement. And then this also came with confession. So it wasn't just a case of, oh, you can just give these offerings and think, oh, that's it. Confession was really important. You had to do certain you have to confess and make it known that you are, because confession's about saying you're denying, you're stepping yourself in line with what you're putting, what God has said over what you believe and stuff like that. So you're confessing that you're in line with what God has said, and you should be in line with what God has said. So confession was really important in this part of Leviticus as well. And then we've got, because you're confessing that you're crossing God's boundary, and you're saying it's important principle for clearing away. So confession was very important for clearing away the sins. And even now we need to confess our sins. So it's still a very important principle. So to summarize Leviticus 5, it wasn't enough to merely not tell lies. God also required his people to make the truth known. It's not good enough just to deny Jesus. It's not good enough just to not deny Jesus exists, but also we need to make his truth known. Ceremonial uncleanness needs to be made clean, because remember the law was in 3 parts. So there was the moral law, the ceremonial law, and the civil law. So the law was in 3 parts. So this was more about the ceremonial cleanliness and ceremonial part of the law. So then trespass offering, another summary, another theme was trespass offering on how the sin affects others. So trespass offering more about how sin affects others more than the sin offering was about how the sin itself and the fact that sin needs atonement. And then trespass, so confession we talked about was important. Confession is taking God's side above ourselves. Then we talked about cleansing available to all. So regardless of wealth, just like most offerings, if they didn't have doves and certain stuff, they could bring flowers. So even the poor could bring like 1/10 of the ephod and stuff like that. So cleanliness available for all. Then atonement had to be dealt with before cleansing. So the trespass offering was 2 offerings we talked about, the sin offering and burnt offering. Then guilt offering for trespass against holy things such as the first fruits, the tithes. So those were things that were needing guilt offering. And then of course there would be compensation needed as well for certain things.